All right, bro, let's bring him in. Joining us now is the 45th President of the United States, GOP presidential frontrunner, Donald Trump. Mr. President, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
So, Mr. President, let's talk about the reaction from the Supreme Court. You got both a unanimous decision from the liberal wing, the conservative wing. They said that you deserve to be on the ballot and voters get the right to decide. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think having a unanimous vote was really great, and they were hoping for it. People were hoping for it because there should be no question. If you're going to win or lose, you have to win or lose at the ballot box, not in a courtroom. And it was a really well-crafted decision. People were very happy about it. Actually, all sides pretty much were respectful of it.
Right. And then Jamie Raskin took about a 3-second break and then says, I'm moving on legislation. Listen to what the congressman said.
I am working with a number of my colleagues, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Eric Swalwell, to revive legislation that we had to set up a process by which we could determine that someone who committed insurrection is disqualified by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment.
What do you think about this left-wing movement?
Well, it's the same losers. They're real losers. If they spent their time focusing on the country and making America great again, that would be a lot better than just wasting their time. I've been going through it for years, beating them for years, and it's the same voices, the same faces. They never stop. They don't care about our country. I don't think they love our country, frankly. They love themselves or their movement, and it's a sick movement. And I'm just focused on winning an election. We have to beat Biden. He's the worst president in history. There's never been a worse president. Our borders are an embarrassment all over the world. We have millions and millions of people coming in from jails, from mental institutions. Nobody's ever seen it. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. They're coming in from jails and prisons and mental institutions, insane asylums. They're terrorists. I mean, you have terrorists pouring in at a level that we have not seen maybe ever. And what they're doing to our country is incredible. They're poisoning our country. And we're going to close up our border, and we're going to deport the people. We're going to get them out because no country can sustain what we're going through right now.
Mr. President, you know I know all too well about that. It's my home state of Texas is the epicenter. But I want to get your reactions to Super Tuesday. You're going to be competing in a lot of states. A lot of folks say you will get close if you win, like the polling suggests tonight, to getting the nomination. But the question is, how are you going to unify your party and then unify the country after that? Is there a peace deal between you and Nikki Haley to move forward as a party?
Well, my focus is really, at this point, it's on Biden. We should win almost every state today. I think every state. Last night, as you know, we won with 87% of the vote. We won North Dakota, a great state with a great governor, by the way. But we really look at it, Biden. We think we're going to be very well unified. I've never seen enthusiasm. Look, I did great in the first one. I did great in the second one. I got millions and millions of more votes in 2020 than I did in 2016. We're going to do, and a lot of bad things happen there, whether you like it or not. And we're going to do phenomenal this one. We have a secure election. We're going to make it secure. It's going to be more secure. That's the biggest threat we have. And we have more enthusiasm now than we had in 2020 or 2016, and that's a lot.
Here's what Nikki Haley said about her chances, because in the polls, as you know, she seems to beat Joe Biden by a wider margin. Oh, you're closing the gap. Here's what she said yesterday. Here's what she said yesterday.
If you look at any of the general election polls, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are even. I think there was a Fox poll today. He was up by 2. That's still margin of error. Between last week's poll and this week's poll, I defeat Joe Biden by up to 18 points.
Well, your reaction to her as a general election, she thinks she's a better general election candidate. Your thoughts?
It's a lie. She knows it's a lie. Look, I have beaten Biden in every poll taken for the last 3 months. She loses to Biden in the polls. She had one fake poll that was taken a long time ago, actually before she started on her little kick, and where she was up. Nobody ever heard of the poll. Nikki Haley loses to Biden. She will lose to Biden. The polls are saying that. And then when you add other candidates, she loses by even more. We are winning against Biden in every single poll, and everybody knows it. Whether it's the New York Times whether it's any of the polls that have been taken over the last 3 months. So she's misrepresenting that fact, and it's fine. It's not going to matter because I think we're going to win every state tonight.
I did see her up in a poll, double digits, but you are up. You won. You're up by 4 in the New York Times. You're up by 2 in the Fox News, the Wall Street Journal 2, and the CBS poll 4.
But, Mr. President, can we get your reaction to, it looks like you're winning with Hispanics based on the polling that we got yesterday. You've gained ground, 20 points with black voters. I mean, what's the operation going to look like in this general election? I hear from your advisors that there's going to be no city left behind.
We're going after everything. Look, we have a different country than we had even 2 years ago. This whole migrant invasion of our country, destruction of our country. You look at what's happened to New York and Chicago. You look at what's happened to Los Angeles. We have a much different country in many ways, but also from a voting standpoint. People that were modestly happy 3 years ago are devastated right now. Their country has been invaded. They can't go to hospitals. They can't go to schools. They can't use their playgrounds for their kids. They cancel out the little leagues. I read today where little leagues are being canceled out all over the country because you have migrants living all over the parks and the fields. Our country is a mess, and I think you have a much different country than you do. We're going to make a heavy play for New York. We're going to make a heavy play for Virginia, states that generally don't go Republican. I think they're going to go Republican in a lot. I think they've got, frankly, I think the Democrats have themselves a big problem.
Well, it's fascinating what's taking place. I think a lot of people are dumbfounded by your numbers, and especially over this past weekend, and you compound the momentum you got with the Supreme Court decision. Can we talk about your policies for a second? As you know, this President of the United States, when it comes to Israel, is getting protested. Now he seems to be turning on Israel. But the non-committed vote that Biden's getting, they're not going to like you either because you are firmly in Israel's camp, correct? Are you on board with the way the IDF is taking the fight in Gaza?
You've got to finish the problem. You had a horrible invasion. It took place. It would have never happened if I was president, by the way. As you know, Iran was broke, Brian. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas, for Hezbollah. They were broke. This would have never happened. And for another reason, they wouldn't have done it to me. I guarantee you that. They did this because they have no respect for Biden, and frankly, they got soft. And what happened here is incredible. That should never have happened. Likewise, Russia would never have attacked Ukraine. Never. You know it. Everybody knows it. And that wouldn't have happened. This is all on Biden.
Do you think the president's in the process of abandoning Israel?
I do believe that, but I don't think he knows where he is, frankly. I think you could ask him a question right now, ask him the same question. I don't think he knows what to say about many subjects, actually. It's really the people that surround him. It's the fascists and the communists that surround him. They're making the calls. They're calling the shots. He's not calling the shots.
Mr. President, what did you feel about Kamala Harris calling for a ceasefire in Gaza? Is that something that you support? Is that something that is totally off the table right now for you?
Look, I hate seeing what's happening. Again, it would have never happened. This attack on Israel and likewise Israel's counterattack, which is what it is, would never have happened if I was president. And you know that, Lawrence. This would have never happened. And it's so horrible to watch it because, you know, if things went right in 2020, which they should have, but they didn't for some very bad and sinister reasons, all these people that are dead in Ukraine and Russia and Israel and all these people that are dead, all these areas that are destroyed, people would be leading great lives right now. All of these dead people, much more importantly than the physical, but cities that are just totally wiped out all over the place. We're going to end up in World War III. This is the worst president in history. He makes Jimmy Carter look phenomenal. Makes Jimmy Carter look brilliant.
Well, the foreign policy. Let's bring it domestic for a second. I know in about 2 or 3 weeks with your court cases, if I'm going to believe what I read in the decisions, you have to come up with something like $400 million. How close are you to securing the bond, or what you need for that?
I have a lot of money. I could do what I want to do, but this was a horrible, illegal decision. This was a decision made up by a crooked judge, 100% crooked clubhouse judge, a disgrace with a equally crooked attorney general who campaigned on "I will get Trump." and we're appealing that decision, and we'll see how we do. But I'll tell you what, people are leaving New York. Businesses are fleeing New York because of that decision. They used the statute to go after me that was never used before.
So you're not
never
worried?
used before.
You're not worried about the money?
I don't worry about anything. No, I don't worry about the money. I don't worry about money.
Mr. President, a lot of people believe that you're at your best when you're fighting for the American people, and we just heard in the diners, we heard immigration, but the other top issue was the economy. What are you going to do to give us some relief when it comes to this inflation? People are going to, whether it's the gas station or to the grocery store, and they're being hit hard. How do you fix that in the first 100 days?
Well, first of all, let me speak to the people in the diner. I saw the vote, and there was 100% Trump, none for my opponent. And I love you in the diner. I will take care of you, and we're going to drill, baby, drill, and we're going to get prices down. Energy is going to bring it all down. We're going to get a lot of that oil. We're going to get the oil and gas right from Texas and other places, but from Texas largely. And I just appreciate it. I saw that vote early this morning. They said, Will's doing a good job, by the way. Will said, you're for Trump, and the whole place went crazy. What about Haley? Nobody, right. Not one person. So all of those people in the diner, I love you.
Right. So speaking of Nikki Haley, she's coming up shortly. After tonight, if the polls are correct and you run the table and you're a week away from locking it up, will there be any effort on your side to reach across and say, okay, just like Ted Cruz, just like Marco Rubio, let's make amends and fight on one side? Would you call her, reach out to her?
Look, she said she'd never run against me, and she did. She said she beat Ron DeSantis in Iowa, and she didn't. She ran up and she did. She misrepresents a lot of facts. She's not doing nearly well against. She's not doing very well against Biden. She shows these polls that nobody ever heard of. You got to tell the facts. You got to tell the truth. The answer is, I want everybody to come together. We're going to have a unified party because our real opponent happens to be named Biden. And he's a disaster. As I said, the worst president in our country. He's destroying our country.
So, Mr. President,
I don't think in terms of Nikki Haley. I'll tell you what.
Mr. President, real quickly, because we only got a little bit of time with you, is this your call right now to say, after tonight, Nikki Haley, join me on stage for the good of the Republican Party? Is that your request for her tonight?
Well, there's no path for her to win. Whether she likes hearing that or not, there's no path for her to win, no matter what. Now, today, I should win, hopefully, every state. I won North Dakota last night in a landslide, 87 to practically nothing. There's no path. You just saw the vote in Texas. That was a poll. That diner is a poll. Everybody, it was 100% for Trump. There is no path. What's she doing other than hurting the Republican Party? Now, I have to say this. Democrats gave her a lot of money. Democrats are because, as a certain person, Gavin Newsom said, there is a man named Gavin Newsom. He interjected himself into this. He said she's their best surrogate for the Democrats, and that's right. She lost when you had Republican primaries where Democrats were allowed to vote, and they went in large numbers to try and make me look bad, and I still won. And I won in South Carolina against her. So, look, there's no path for Nikki. I wish Nikki the best. But she stood up and many, many times said, I'd never run against our president. He was a great president. I would never run. And then she ran. So, those things you don't like to see. You like to see people that are truthful. With all of that being said, our party has to come together because we have to beat the Democrats, and they play dirty. They play very dirty. And we're going to beat them, and it's going to be the greatest election, maybe even more so, and maybe more important. I believe that November 5th is the most important day, perhaps, in our country's history. Because November 5th, we're going to hopefully get Biden out. It's going to be Election Day, November 5th. That's the most important day. We're going to get rid of Biden, the worst president ever, and we're going to close up our borders, and we're going to drill, baby, drill, and we're going to have a great economy. I'm doing tax cuts, additional. I gave the biggest tax cuts in history. They're bigger than the Reagan tax cuts, the biggest regulation cuts in history, and we'll go back to what we had. We have the greatest economy in the history of our country, and we're going to have it again, but in spades. It's going to be bigger and better than ever before. But we have to win this election because our country can't take too much more of this.
So I sense the doors open a little bit for reconciliation. and we'll see how this all finishes out tonight. Mr. President, thanks for starting your day with us.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Mr.
it.
President. We appreciate it.
Thank